Hello, everybody. Gage says it's empty. Let's go see what's in the fridge today. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for stopping by Gregsbeerreviews today. Today's beer is 8th Wonder Brewing, and they're out of Houston, Texas. This was sent to me by Brandon. This is the Rocket Fuel. And what this beer is, a Vietnamese coffee porter. So they infuse it. And let me read what's on the can here. It says, Rocket Fuel Vietnamese Coffee Porter. Porter infused with cold brew coffee and milk sugar, so they've used lactose in this. A pleasantly robust dark roast complemented by subtle creamy sweetness. Prepare for delicious liftoff. And this is a fairly small beer, being at 4.6% and 18 IBUs. Doesn't have the date on the can anywhere, so hopefully it's still going to be good. I've had this in the fridge for a while now. I usually try to review these lower ABV beers, but being a porter and a coffee, I'm hoping the coffee is not faded out over time with not having a date on it. So we'll see. We're getting ready to pop the top on this and see what it's all about. Food pairings for this style of beer, guys. It says here cuisine is barbecue, cheese is buttery brie gouda Havarti Swiss, and since it is a porter or a stout, goes well with your chocolate dishes, of course. And if you're not a coffee fan or a coffee lover, this may not be your cup of tea. The meat for this is beef, smoked meat, and grilled meat. Glass right a pint Becker Nonic, Tumbler, Stein, Seidel. I'm going to use my favorite Snifter, and not recommended for extended celery, being a low ABV beer at 4.6%. I think that's what I said. Yep, 4.6%. So that's all we need to talk about. So let's get the top popped on this one. And he did send me a little flyer with this, saying basically the same thing that's on here, that it's a 4.6 and 18 IBUs. So not pitch black coming out of the can, so, but it may look a little different in this big bulb glass once we get it in there. And this is a 12-ounce can, so we can get it all in there. I didn't pour it super aggressive, but it didn't pour a massive head. A little less than a finger. Over into the light, it is very typical of most porters, not all of them. I'm getting a lot of red ruby tinges around the outside of the bottom part of the glass. So it is not pitch black in the glass, guys. It is up here, but not down here. Let's get a nose on it. Getting the coffee. Definitely getting the coffee. I'm getting some caramel and toffee. Nice sweetness to the back end from the lactose they've used. Rich roasted malt. Smells pretty good for a very low sessionable porter. Now you could have a couple of these and still not be inebriated or shit-faced or whatever you want to call it. 4.6%. Very easy drinking. Now you could have this for breakfast on a Saturday or a Sunday, and go on and not be drunk. So this may be a better one to choose for a early morning beer, which I don't do. And some of you young bucks might want to do that, but I don't drink beer for breakfast. But this one would probably be a better candidate to drink for breakfast than maybe a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%er on a Sunday or Saturday morning. Because if I drank something like that for breakfast, I'd be back in the bed within an hour. But this may be a good candidate. So let's find out. Let's give it a taste. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Brandon. Thank you. nice coffee profile, but it's not off the chain. It's not like a Sumatra coffee or something like that Founders does. But I don't know how old the beer is. And being a low 4.6%er, the coffee may have faded depending on when it went in the can. It says here, if I have it, it does not, whether it was done in winter or spring or when it was done. I don't have that information. So, but very tasty. A lot of these lower ABV beers don't have that big massive punch of coffee or whatever. They're very sessionable. They're very light, especially if you like a darker beer. A lot of people don't like the darker beers. They're afraid of the dark. But this would be a good introductory to a stout or a porter. Something with a little lower ABV and not all that massive taste that's going to make your palate cringe if you're not used to drinking those type of beers. So, very nice. Very nice. A lot of rich roasted malt, hints of coffee in there, and I don't know how strong. I don't drink a lot of Vietnamese coffee, whether it is as potent as a Sumatra or some of the other really strong espresso type coffees, but very easy drinking, and I expected that from a 4.6%er. A very sessionable porter. Very nice. Very nice. Just wish they would date it. That's my only fuss, so we know how old the beer is, so you know when to drink it. Especially being a low ABV beer. It's very much like a IPA or a double IPA. You want to know when it was put in a can, so you wouldn't want to go in the store and buy this when it's 6 months, a year old, and the coffee is faded over at that time and stuff. So another reason why I harp on this stuff, guys, and I do all the time, just about every time, we need to have it on the IPAs, the double IPAs, the hoppy beers, and the low ABV beers, whether it's a porter or a lager or whatever. Hefeweizen, if it's a less than 5% beer, we need that date. Well, let me take it in there and let her have a sip or two or three and sip on it for just a little bit and see where it ends up. Right tasty. Not super impressed, but it's pretty tasty for a little ABV beer. Alright guys, I'm back. Been sipping on it probably about 20 minutes or so. The other half had the same response when she drank it that I do. Kind of on the thin, watery side, but you got to expect that from a low ABV porter, 4.6%. It doesn't have all that body that the bigger porters and stouts are going to have. The coffee is just really subdued to me. Like I said, I don't know how old the beer is, and maybe I should have reviewed it a week or 2 or 3 ago. I've had it for a little while, so Brandon, I apologize if this is an excellent beer and I don't give the ratings that you think I should. I've had much better coffee, porters, and stouts than what I'm getting from this particular one. But for a session porter, 4.6%, 18 IBUs, it's not bitter. Lactose is used, gives it a nice sweetness on the back end, rich roasted malt. Just wish I would see a date on these guys, especially on this low ABV stuff. It's kind of disheartening when I get beers that are sent to me because these guys have spent their hard-earned money on that and then paid to ship it to me when it's not super impressive. It's definitely above average, but I'm not sure it's quite to the A scale. But for a transitional or entry-level porter, it's very, very nice. For an entry-level porter, I would probably give this a very good grade. And that's what it is. So maybe I should rethink this and give it the grade for what it is. But the coffee is so subdued. That's why I'm thinking it's a little past its prime. I'm getting the coffee, but it's not huge notes of coffee. Final chug. To me, guys, my honest opinion, this is an A beer in a B can because it doesn't have a date on the bottom of it for a low ABV beer. If I was putting a numeric rating on this, guys, I would probably give it an 89, B+. So, 7 out of 10 for me on this one, guys, because it doesn't have the date on it. We need to have that on these low ABV beers. So, over to Beer Advocate, they say 90, which is at the very bottom of the A scale. I can't go to the A scale because it doesn't have a date. It needs to have a date on this stuff. It really, really does. And I apologize to Brandon for sending me this and not having a date on it, even though he printed this out off his printer, but it doesn't have a date on it anywhere. So I don't know how old the beer is, and if it's a fresh beer, the coffee is just not to the extent that I was expecting, even for a low ABV beer. So it is what it is. And over to Rate Beer. Rate Beer has got some really good numbers, overall 95 and 97 in the style. So that's another reason why it leads me to think that the beer should have a date on it, because I don't know how old the beer is, and I was expecting a little more coffee in this beer, and it probably or may have had a little more coffee flavor to it fresh. But I don't know. It doesn't have a date on it. But I still appreciate Brandon spending his hard-earned money on this and paying to ship it to me. But I was not overly impressed. I still think it's a great beer. For a session beer, an easy drinking, entry level or transitional into the porter style, it is a good beer. But I'm not getting the coffee, especially for the name Rocket Fuel. I would expect that name to be on an imperial porter or a stout instead of an entry level. So, but anyway, it was tasty. I did enjoy it. I know that the 4.6% is an entry level. It's not going to have that big, bold taste and mouthfeel because it's fairly thin and watery. And usually the lower ABV beers are. So it is what it is. 89 for me, guys. 7, which is a B+. So if you have this one from 8th Wonder Brewing, the Rocket Fuel. 4.6% ABV. 18 IBUs, very easy as far as bitterness to drink. So a good transitional beer to get into the lighter side of this instead of picking up your first porter and it's an 8, 9, 10% or imperial porter or whatever. This would be a good one to start off into. So if you've had this one from them, let me know what you think, guys, and come on back tomorrow. Let's see what's in the fridge.